Right now we're sitting on our property. This is actually an old railway line, and we've got a Centurion bridge laying bridge right above my head. The Centurion tank is what we consider a medium battle tank. It actually weighs 52 tonne in total. The turret alone weighs about 20 tonne. It was actually the first turret in the world to have a single casting, and the reason they did that is to avoid what they call grain boundaries. So if it gets hit by a projectile, it doesn't have as many weaknesses as something that's welded together. Our Centurion tank that we have here has 3 machine guns on board. So we've got a 30 caliber machine gun, which is mounted on the mantlet cover at the front. And it's operated by the gunner. He has foot pedals, which are very much like sewing machine foot pedals. Then there's a second 30 cal machine gun, which is mounted up on the cupola on the top section, and the commander can fire that through a remote. So he actually can keep his head down and fire that 30 cal machine gun from the top. And then the third machine gun is a 50 caliber machine gun, which is also operated by the gunner with another foot pedal. It was mainly used as a ranging gun, so to check range for the main gun, which is a 20-pound main gun. In Vietnam, they primarily used the canister round, which was not only used for infantry, but clearing jungle canopies as they went through with the Centurion. The tank that we have here, the Centurion tank, it's a Mark 5-2, so 5 of the British upgrades and 2 of the Australian upgrades. Interestingly, a lot of the things that are on it at the moment were actually removed in Vietnam for simple use purposes. So when they were travelling through jungle canopies, the smoke grenade discharges on the side tended to catch all the jungle canopy and the vines, so they actually removed those. They've been put back on, so the tank came returned and went back into service in the Australian Army. All 51 tanks that served in Vietnam did return and were reused. Coming back to the differences of our tank here, it's up armoured. So if you see another Centurion tank, you may see that it doesn't have the same weld patterns on the front of the tank and the top because it's got thicker armour. Very distinctively, the way the tank's designed was quite a big advancement. So the turret being primarily up the front, motor behind, driver in the front, and then your 3 occupants inside, which has pretty much dictated all larger tanks, how they're designed today. They were originally built in the UK. And Australia was the first order of Centurion tanks. But our order got sent to Korea, where there was a conflict in Korea at the time, so Centurions were first used there. And then our order of Centurions turned up not long after that, and were only in Australia. They never left our country until the Vietnam conflict. So that was in the mid-60s, and they served there for, I think, 3 or 4 years over in Vietnam and then returned back to Australia. The tanks were then upgraded and still used in the Australian Army till 1979. Our Centurion was hit by 2 landmines. The first one actually damaged the track so severely and the final drive. They were able to repair the final drive on site. So that was the first hit that it had, which was a close call for the occupants inside. The second landmine strike actually hit in the middle of the hull underneath and split the hull so badly that the tank was deemed beyond economic repair and sent back to Australia for repair at that point. Cheapest I've ever seen one for sale is about $25,000, but it had no internals, no motor, no gearbox. And then the most expensive, up to about $150,000, although the bridge that we're sitting under at the moment is the last remaining bridge laying tank left in the world, and the price goes up from there when tanks become very rare. I guess what I didn't realise was you've got the initial purchase price of the tank, but then you have the maintenance, the ongoing maintenance, and the fuel costs, and then the parts and the repairs. So I find that it's a 5-to-1 ratio. I can do a 1 hour of driving equals 5 hours of maintenance. So The thought in my head of a tank being indestructible and being able to just drive it in the field for a whole weekend without worrying was soon doused by the first $300 fuel bill after 45 minutes of driving. I'd always wanted to own a tank, a Centurion tank, since I was 6 years old. And my parents actually bought me a remote control tank which resembles the Centurion very closely. And so it was always my goal, my end goal, to find something like that remote control tank, which I still have, to experience what it's like to actually drive one of the tanks that served is quite humbling, actually. I have a lot of respect for the people who drove them when they were being shot at, not just for pleasure like I do. We're booked with tank rides now in the Centurion tanks, whether it be that one or one of the other Centurions that we have. And we've got every weekend booked for a month in advance, and we've been doing it for 2 years now. So usually 4 rides per day and 14 per group. And I guess what people don't realise is it's really cool to have a ride in the tanks as well, but it's equally as interesting to hear the history. And I'm very passionate about it, so people seem to respond to that quite well. We had a tank wedding just last weekend, which was the first one that we've done. I never would have thought that we'd be doing that. I mean, we've had hens parties as well, bucks parties. Hens was really interesting. They seem to get into it more than the guys sometimes. Obviously, lots of car crushing, and then everyone from 3-year-olds up to 84-year-olds have been on board the tank as well for rides. So yeah, who'd have thought? Just like me, I never realised that it was going to be like this. They don't realise that it's, it's quite interesting to see these machines and to understand what the people were like that served in them as well.